So, for today's topic,
Deportation concerns are hitting the cruise industry in the Mermaid City. 10 on Your Side was at a rally this weekend outside Carnival cruise ship in Norfolk.
This protest follows a report that at least a dozen Filipino crew members with valid visas were suddenly deported. 10 on Your Side's Madison Pearman is looking into what happened.
Asia Regina, more than 20 Filipino visa-holding cruise ship workers in Norfolk were allegedly deported because of crimes. But they never got the chance to prove their alleged innocence because they were deported so quickly. We sat down with an attorney to figure out, how could this happen?
The executive director of the Filipino Workers Center told 10 on Your Side since April, more than 20 Filipino citizens lawfully working on cruise ships using C-1D visas in Norfolk were deported. PwC says the basis for the deportations were claims that the individuals were in possession of child pornography. PwC says instead of these individuals being criminally charged for the claims, they were deported without the opportunity to prove their innocence. Their visas were also revoked. Radlyn Mendoza, an immigration attorney in Hampton Roads, said when she first heard the news, she says it was alarming.
I just thought to myself, wow, this is really bad. You know, it's bad all the way around. I'm Filipino. I'm a Filipino immigration attorney. My parents, they had one of the very first Filipino grocery stores in Ocean View in Norfolk.
Mendoza highlighted the lack of due process for the alleged crimes. She says if they committed a crime, why aren't they or potential victims getting their day in court?
Why are you not charging them if they actually did? I mean, it's a crime to have child pornography. So it's very interesting to me that in several cases in Florida, and I believe in California, people were charged.
Allegedly deported individuals spoke with PwC. They said they were never shown the child pornography that law enforcement said they possessed. She cited a criminal case out of Florida in April of 2024 where a Filipino cruise ship worker was accused of the same crimes but had a different outcome. He will face deportation when his jail time ends after he got his day in court. At the end of the day, Mendoza says the wide scope of the Secretary of State's power likely gives them the ability to deport the workers.
It does fall under these really broad powers. Yes, we can do this, but the unjust part about this and just the tarnishing of these people's reputation and really essentially just they're not going to be able to come back. They're not going to be able to get another visa ever again.
And that is generationally devastating to some of these families financially. I just got an image confirming that at least one of the men was officially deported from the U.S. on the 28th. So deeply concerning for their family. Congressman Bobby Scott sent a statement out saying that he is making inquiries to the appropriate federal authorities to gather more information, saying that our country was founded on fundamental principles of due process. We're going to continue to follow this story. I'm Madison Pearman, 10 on Your Side.
So unless you've been living under a rock, you know that this deportation issue has been a very big deal for the better part of 6 months or so. And when it comes to just immigration and deportations in general, as you can imagine, it's extremely complex. And when it comes to Carnival, as of right now, there has been at least 21 crew members allegedly working on board the Carnival Sunshine cruise ship, that you have one side of the aisle saying that these crew members are being falsely accused and targeted because you have ICE involved, you have federal agents, FBI that is involved, and they're saying, as you heard in the video, they have some content that obviously they should not have. Now, of course, there are a lot of legalities to all of this, and as I said, it's extremely complex. However, when it comes to this particular situation, unfortunately, it's not the first time that we are hearing something like this taking place on board a cruise ship. We're not just talking about Carnival. We've had it happen with Royal Caribbean, we've had it happen with MSC, and this has involved confirmed evidence. Now, of course, as you can imagine, there are a lot of legalities to all this. And as I said, this is an extremely complex topic. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know everything about this. I just try to do as much research as I can to see what exactly is going on, because this is extremely alarming. You have the advocates on one end saying that these crew members have been falsely accused and their constitutional rights have not been respected. Meanwhile, on the other end, you have, yes, the passengers and other crew members that are involved. And yeah, unfortunately, these crew members, some of them anyway, at this point in time have now been deported. And what you have to understand about being deported, like you're kicked out of a country, especially in the United States here, you're going to be banned for a minimum of 10 years. And when it comes to these crew members, yes, they're going to have their visas revoked. And obviously extreme reputational damage. In this case, there are terms being tossed out like due process and warrants. However, you have to understand when you're dealing with organizations like the FBI and ICE, they have been conducting, of course, investigations and looking at all of this, from my understanding and what I read up on, for about a year or so. So if they decide to go after somebody, I would imagine, or at least I would hope, they have credible, uncontested proof that these crew members that have been detained now, and some of which have been deported, like I said, are actually, of course, in possession of this content that they are alleged of being in possession of. When it comes to the idea of due process and warrants and all that, the feds don't need it. They have evidence on their end in order to make an arrest or to detain somebody, and they are allowed to do so. You have the advocates on one end that's citing that there was a crew member, one of which last year, that was arrested for being in possession of this child content that is obviously very, very sinister. It is illegal as well, and he'll be deported after he serves his time in jail. I would say for these crew members, if they are indeed in possession of this type of content, the best possible outcome for them is to be deported, as opposed to just being arrested and having to go through the entire process and being sentenced and then put in jail for a number of years and then deported. I would imagine this is a shocking and overall horrific situation for everybody involved. You have the advocates that may or may not know all the details of the situation. You have the crew members, you have their family, you have Carnival Cruise Line itself in this particular moment, because it looks like it's only a Carnival issue right now anyway, that naturally they are cooperating with authorities, because yes, if this stuff is true, that's exactly what they should be doing. If you have these type of people, these monsters that are on these cruise ships, and there is credible proof and evidence, get them off and send them home or arrest them. What it looks like is that you have the immigration advocates that are essentially asking for, yes, due process and proof that all of this is actually taking place. Where on the other end, like I said, you have the FBI, you have just the entire set of organizations that have been doing, I would imagine, very thorough investigations. And if it has been concluded that, again, these crew members have this content available, they don't need to show it to these advocate groups or essentially the general public. They're going to take care of business. Now, as far as these crew members being targeted, that's a very random thing to do. I'm not saying it's impossible, and I do want to hear all of your thoughts on this. What do you think is going on? Do you really believe that ICE and the feds are going after crew members that don't live here, that will essentially be on a cruise ship anywhere between 6 to maybe some of them, I believe, like it's 15 months, about a year, that will never be a citizen here? They're just getting on the cruise ship. Maybe they'll, whenever they're in port, go shop at the mall or go hang out for a bit. And then when their visa or their contract has concluded, rather, just go home. I find that personally very unlikely. I'm not saying it's impossible, but that is a strange group of people to target without any proof, just to say, yeah, we got them. I don't want to beat the dead seahorse here, but I do believe that there is probably some type of probable cause. And in terms of warrants, the feds don't need warrants in situations like this, only in situations where there is a property involved. For example, if they're living in a house here, yeah, they need a warrant to break into the house. As far as just picking somebody up at a cruise port and arresting them, no, they do not need it, and that's just the legality of all of it. But I do want to hear all of your thoughts in the comment section below. This is a quick video, quick update, but it is definitely a big deal because we could potentially see more of this. Unfortunately, it's not the first time it's happened. We've been seeing this for years, and I would hope it'd be the last, but who knows at this point in time. But of course, let me know your thoughts once again in the comment section below. Hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't already. And know, as usual, I love and appreciate every single one of you. I'll see you later. Take it easy.